But before we hear from Walt, let's sing this. Jesus, Jesus, Jesus in the morning, Jesus at noontime, Jesus, my Jesus, Jesus when the sun goes down. Love him, we're gonna love him in the morning, love him at noontime, love him, we're gonna love him when the sun goes down. Serve him, we're gonna serve him in the morning, serve him at noontime, serve him, we're gonna serve him when the sun goes down. Praise him, we're gonna praise him in the morning, praise him at noontime, praise him, we're gonna praise him when the sun goes down. Let's bow. Heavenly Father, we just lift up your name. We come before you. Thank you for these times where we can come together as your people, where we can feed on your word. We do ask a blessing for those in this body who are in need spiritually and physically. You know all of those concerns. We lift those up before your throne. We ask a blessing on this community, on our nation, on this world. We ask that you be with those in the Bahamas, those on the coast, dealing with the hurricane, and we just lift all of those needs up before you, those who are responding and those who are helping in these circumstances. Be with us now as we listen, as we learn. Bless Walt as he speaks. Thank you for his work in your kingdom. We pray for a blessing on that. We lift all this up in the name of your son Jesus. Amen. Well, I first came across Walt when I was at the West End Church of Christ as a freshman at Lipscomb University, and Walt was the youth minister there. And in particular, working with bringing kids in from a neighborhood and having a Saturday school. And I was there with my friend Jonathan Seaman, and it's just been wonderful ever since then, and just treasured Walt and Carol's friendship. And so with no further introduction, I think we're set to go. Walt Leaver from Brentwood Hills in Nashville, Tennessee. I think the turn on.
All right. Well, good evening. Oh, I'm very glad to be here. Yes, sir.
Yeah, we'll get a bell. We'll go to about 7:15 or so, whenever.
So 8:15, I can go to 8:15. Thank you very much. Well, I'm sorry I messed up my schedule, but I appreciate you extending the summer 1 week. And an extra week of summer, nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that. But very glad to be here this evening, and appreciate every time that I get a chance to come and be with folks that I know and love, and then meet new folks, and it's just really, it's almost like coming home when I'm out of town, coming home out of town. So, but always good to see Jeffrey and Joanna, and hear about the things that are going on here at Trenton Crossing, and very, very honored to be with you tonight. Now, we're going to try to work together. We're going to try to work together back here with the slides, and let's put a slide up on the screen. All right, got a few questions for you. Okay, and we're going to go through these about every 2 seconds. Okay, but before we go to the next one, you just think. How quickly could you answer? I don't want you to answer, but how quickly could you answer? Where were you born? Let's just keep going. Where do you live? Where do you shop? Grocery shopping. Where do you do your banking? Where do you buy your gasoline? Where do you go to school, or where did your children go to school, or where do your grandchildren go to school, or where do which school do you work, whatever. Which school are you closely affiliated with? Where do you get your hair cut or your hair done? How do you like to spend free time? Where do you work? Where do you work out? Physical exercise. Where do you go to the doctor? Where do you go to the dentist? Where do you go to the pharmacy? Where do you get your car worked on? Now, hold on there. Where do you go if you got a problem with your car? Now, how many of you think you could answer within 10 seconds or less the majority of those questions? Raise your hand. Okay. Those are easy questions. Easy questions to answer. Okay, let me ask you one more. Where is your mission field? Now, I'm not going to ask you to raise your hand on that, but I'm going to guess for some of us, that's a harder question to answer. Where do I shop for groceries? I can tell you, maybe several possibilities. Where do I go to the doctor? Maybe several doctors. But where's my mission field? What are you talking about? Where is my mission field? Now, if I do this, let's just go to the next slide. Now, how many of you here have ever been on any kind of mission trip? Raise your hand. Okay, that's the majority. How many of you have either been on a mission trip or you know people pretty well who've been on a mission trip? Raise your hand. That'd be most everybody. All right. How many of you have ever either said this or you heard someone say this after going on a mission trip? That's the best trip I've ever taken. It changed my life. I'll never be the same again. I've never had a trip as wonderful as that was. Has anybody heard anything like that from anybody who's ever been on a mission trip? Raise your hand. Now that's what's amazing. I think more hands went up then than ever. I mean, you don't have to take long to think about it. What is it? What is it about a mission trip that makes people say that? I've heard children at Brentwood Hills congregation who I think of one family in particular that their kids have been to Disney World and they've been skiing and they've done all kinds of great trips, as we would consider great trips to be. And then one year they went to Honduras. And they came back and told us that their kids said, that's the best trip we've ever taken. We like that better than any of the other vacations we've ever been on. What a vacation. They were on a mission trip. On a mission trip, you don't vacate, you work. You work hard. And but they came back and said things like, that's the best trip ever. Let's go to the next slide. What if? Now this is a question that I think I got this idea from a guy named Francis Chan, who's written a number of books, but he made a comment in one of his books. He said, kind of what I was just saying, people come back from mission trips and they're just on top of the world and they say they'll never be the same again. It was the best experience they've ever had, made better memories than they've ever made. They just feel so much closer to God than they've ever felt. It was the best trip ever. And Francis Chan says, what if we could make every day a mission trip? I mean, if it's the best experience ever, wouldn't you want more of it rather than less of it? Because we come back, I mean, I'm not going to ask for any more shows of hands. Y'all have been great about responding, but, I've come back from some mission trips saying things like this: I will never be the same again. I'll do things, I'll just do this, do that, and guess what? It wasn't like I was the same. And it's not that, I was breaking the law or anything, but just not as intense, not as engaged, not as committed. You come back and you feel, my life has been changed. But then all of a sudden the fire starts to kind of slow down. The energy starts to wane. And how could we sustain that? How could we sustain that? Here we are, we're just a few days past Labor Day, and we're beginning the fall season of the year. And you got a few months where school's in session and you working and whatever, but suppose you were to say, I want to capture whatever it is that makes a mission trip so special. And you think about it, what is it? When you go on mission trips, do you go on mission trips to the exotic places of the world where you've always wanted to go? Usually not. Do you go to the most beautiful? Now, sometimes the places you go to are beautiful or places you've never seen before, but you're not going there because of the beauty you're going to see. You might take one day out of a week to enjoy some of the tourist sites, but mostly what you do, you get up in the morning, your schedule's already set, you get up and you work. And sometimes you work out of your comfort zone. You work out of your familiarity. You might not do any. You might not really have much experience at all in construction, but you get on a construction crew. You might not have any experience in a clinic, but you work helping people take blood pressure or do some kind of a clinical exam. Maybe what you do is pack groceries and deliver them to people in the neighborhood. Maybe what you do is conduct a vacation Bible school for children whose language you don't even know. There are all kinds of ways on a mission trip, and you come back at the end of the day, and you don't go on a mission trip to eat great food. Sometimes the food you eat on a mission trip, you only eat because you are so hungry, you've got to eat something. And sometimes you don't go on a mission trip you don't go on a mission trip because you never get sick on a mission trip. A lot of times people get sick on mission trips, especially if they go to certain parts of the world. And don't drink the water. Don't brush your teeth with that water. You brush your teeth with the water and you're going to get sick. But sometimes you do everything you can, but you get sick because your body's just not used to that. But you know what? When you get back, you forget all of that. You forget all that. Why? Because there was something more important going on. There was something really exciting going on. And you saw God at work. How can we make every day a mission trip? Let's go to the next slide. Go back to the question, where is your mission field? Where is your mission field? Let's go to the next slide. My daughter shared this quote with me. It's from a woman named Jill Briscoe. She said, your mission field is right where you are, between your own 2 feet. You don't have to go across town to find your mission field. You certainly don't have to go across the country, and you certainly don't have to go around the world. Now, there's nothing wrong with going around the world. There's nothing wrong with going to another part of the country. There's nothing wrong with going across town. But you don't have to wait to go those places before you already have your mission field. In some cases, your mission field might be your neighborhood. It might be where you work. It might be where you teach, or where you go to school, or where you spend your day, or who you spend your day with. And maybe you've never looked at it like that. Maybe you have. But you think for just a minute. Let's suppose, and I don't know how many hundreds of people are here tonight, preacher count, several hundreds, Jeffrey, is what I would say. I don't know how many people are here tonight, but let's say, and I just play with me here for a minute. Let's say that all of you get so convicted. I mean, we had this wonderful couple. Now, does this get recorded and then put on YouTube? Is that the way that works?
It's going live right now.
We're going live. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We're live from right here at the Trenton Crossing Church of Christ, downtown. Well, not kind of the outskirts of Clarksville, Tennessee. Okay, that's good. I just need to know that because I'm going to tell you, we have a couple at Brickwood Hills named Randy and Lindsay, and I'm not going to be able to tell you everything about them because they live in a part of the world where it would be dangerous. It would be dangerous if some of the people in the area where they live knew why they lived there. Because there are very strong people of the Muslim faith, for example, that really have a very angry, terroristic approach to what Randy and Lindsay stand for. They work in a hospital. He is a dentist. He actually came from Ohio to Lipscomb. She came all the way from Franklin Road Academy, which is just down the street from the Brentwood Hills Church of Christ. Jeffrey and Joanna are very familiar with. And in fact, she grew up in our teen program at Brentwood Hill Church of Christ, and her parents are there every Sunday sitting in the balcony. And but they both ended up in Lipscomb. That's where they met. And his goal was to be a dentist. So they moved to Memphis after they got married, and he went to dental school, and graduated from dental school, and had really always just assumed, and she had always assumed, they graduated from dental school, they would decide where he was going to set up practice, and they would live happily ever after, raise their family, etc. And the only problem was, during dental school, he met some people who really challenged him. I mean, they were challenging themselves, and they all got really serious about following Christ. And they didn't use this phrase necessarily, but basically they were living examples of what it would mean to make every day a mission field or mission trip. And they moved into, and they told me the name of it, and I've forgotten the name. They moved into a part of Memphis that would be considered to be one of the most dangerous, one of the most undesirable places to live in Memphis, Tennessee. And I could think of places that would be like that in Nashville, Tennessee. I imagine in Clarksville you don't have any place like that. Every place would be nice to live in Clarksville, Tennessee, is what I've always assumed. But you know what I'm talking about. I mean, they were starting to raise a family. And they have 3 boys. And all 3 of those boys were born and brought home from the hospital to a house in a neighborhood where you could hear gunshots at night. And it's just a different kind of environment entirely, but they moved there to really cultivate relationships with people who desperately need Jesus Christ. And then they met some people who told them about opportunities in other parts of the world and where they needed a dentist to go to a hospital in the desert of a Middle Eastern country where they would serve Bedouins, desert dwellers. And so they went and spent 2 years in the capital city of this country learning the language. And now they came back, spent about 2 months in Nashville and in the United States during the summer, and now they've gone back not to the capital city, they've gone back to the desert. They live out in very undeveloped area where they are now beginning their work. And so, you're impressed by that, and you can't help but be impressed by that. And just listening to them talk, I mean, they have such a commitment and such an inspiring story, and you see their little boys, and you've got to be careful when I can't. They've asked us not to, like if we're on live stream or even if we're being taped for play later anywhere. I can't mention their last name, and I can't tell you the country where they are, because it's not a safe thing for that information to be out there. But suppose everybody in this audience got so convicted tonight, and you say, "That's what I need to do. That's what I need to do." And so you come after. We all get together. We get the elders here and say, we all want to go into the mission field. We all want to go into the mission field. So when do we go to the airport? Where do we apply for our visa? How do we get our passports? We say, hold on a second. Where is your mission field? Where is your mission field? It's right where you work. It's right where you go to school. It's right where you already live. And I'm not saying it's certainly not wrong to go on mission trips. It's certainly not wrong to do what Randy and Lindsay have done. Thank God there are people who will do that. But you don't have to do that to make every day a mission trip. You just decide, wait a minute, God, how can God use me right where I am? Let's go to the next slide. Okay, take your Bible, open to John chapter 4. John chapter 4. We're going to look real quickly. Let me check the watch here. In the next 15 minutes or so, we're going to look real quickly at two stories, and I'm going to challenge you to do two things. All we're doing tonight, we're just kind of scratching the surface. But we're kind of introducing this concept. We're going to look at two stories, and you're probably familiar with both of these stories well. You could tell them better than I can. In John chapter 4, Jesus is traveling through Samaria, and it's midday, and the Bible says Jesus was tired. Imagine that. Jesus was tired. He was a human being. And getting tired is not a sin. But they had been busy, they had been traveling, they had been on foot, he was tired, and he sits down by the well while the apostles go into the village to buy lunch. They run in, they were going to probably go through a McDonald's and get some food and bring it back out to Jesus there at the well. So while he's sitting there, a woman walks up. And she is a Samaritan. And Jesus initiates the conversation. Jesus starts the conversation. He asks her for a drink of water. And she's surprised, number one, he's a Jew talking to a Samaritan. And number two, he's a Jewish man talking to a Samaritan woman. Two violations of kind of the social code of the day. So they engage in this conversation, and you probably are familiar with some of the aspects. He says, if you knew who I was, you would have asked me for one. He said, and she said, you don't even have a bucket. You don't have anything to draw the water with. He said, let me tell you, if I drink the water you give me, I'll get thirsty again. But if you drink the water I give you, you'll never be thirsty. She's listening to this, and she's all kind of confused, and he says, go call your husband. And she says, I don't have a husband. He said, you're right, you don't have a husband. You had 5 husbands. And the man you're living with now is not your husband. And she's just kind of blown away. This man knows more about me than how could he possibly know that? And so they have some more conversation. They start talking about some questions that they couldn't answer about where to worship. And then finally she said, well, when the Messiah comes, he'll tell us all about it. And he said, I am. Well, that was just really more than she knew how to handle. Now, let's go to the next screen. This is the 27th verse of the 4th chapter. Just then, his disciples returned. They had been into the village to buy lunch, and they returned to the well where Jesus was resting. And they were surprised to find him talking with the woman, but nobody asked, what do you want, or why are you talking with her? They're just we weren't expecting this. So, let's go to the next slide. Leaving her water jar, the woman went back to the town and said to the people, hey, you've got to come and see this man who told me everything I ever did. Could this be the Messiah? And so they came out of the town and made their way toward him. Now, let me just read between the lines a little bit here. See, Jesus really, he kind of went deep into her situation. He said, you're right. you don't have a husband, but you had 5 husbands. That could have been said in a very condescending way. It could have been said in a very judgmental way. It could have been said in a way that would have made that woman feel very uncomfortable. Obviously, that was not the way it was said. Because she didn't storm off and say, I'm not going to let anybody talk to me like that. Instead, she went and got her friends and said, you got to come meet this guy. He's something else. Even though he exposed her weaknesses, she felt that he obviously was somebody who cared about her. And he said, could this possibly be the Messiah? He told me he was, but could it possibly be true? Let's go to the next slide. Meanwhile, the disciples urge him, Rabbi, you've got to eat something. Hey, we went to get you lunch. You're tired. You're hungry. You've got to eat something. But he said to them, I have food to eat that you know nothing about. What? And so his disciples, go to the next slide. His disciples said to each other, could someone have brought him food? What do you mean he has food to eat we don't know anything about? But then he said, I'll tell you, my food is to do the will of him who sent me and to finish his work. Let me describe a situation that you may or may not have ever experienced. Have you ever been so engaged in a project? Maybe it's on a day off, maybe it's just when you got some free time, maybe you're on vacation, but you get so engaged in the project that you lose track of time. You work right through the lunch hour. You may work, right through the dinner time. Somebody says, aren't you going to stop and eat dinner? Well, what time is it? 9 o'clock. Well, dinner's been ready since 6. But you've been so engaged in the project, you didn't even think about it. Anybody ever had that experience? Raise your hand. Okay, I don't look like I've ever had that experience, but y'all know what you're talking about. That's what was happening here. Jesus says, there is something that nourishes me. There is something that sustains me. There is something that fills me up. But it's not the physical food you just went into town to get. It's doing what God put me here to do in the first place. Does that make sense? He was like, the way I look at it, it's kind of like when he was doing what he was doing, it's like putting a fish back into the water. It was like making everything fit the way it was supposed to fit. And then keep going, next slide. He says, don't you guys have a saying, it's still 4 months until the harvest? I'm not exactly sure how they use that phrase, but it's almost like if you ever didn't want to do something, you say, we got plenty of time. We got plenty of time. We don't have to worry about that tonight. We got plenty of time till the harvest. Maybe as a procrastinator, that's maybe the phrase that they would use. But he says, I got something to tell you. You need to open your eyes. You need to open your eyes. Look at the fields. They are ripe for harvest. Jesus had just experienced that. It was unscripted. It was not on his daytime. It was not on his calendar. It was not anything that anybody could have anticipated. He sits down at that well while the guys go into town to get something to eat, and a woman shows up. A Samaritan woman shows up. And Jesus initiated the conversation. He didn't just say, no, I can't talk to this Samaritan woman. She probably isn't interested in anything I had to say anyway. No. God brought her into his life at that moment, and guess what? He didn't blow the opportunity. Now, here's the first thing. Just 2 things I'm going to mention tonight for you to take home with you. Here's the first one. What if every morning you start the day? It doesn't have to be something that takes a lot of time to do. If you start the day, maybe your first waking thought, Lord, open my eyes today to see who it is that you bring into my life to be an influence Now, you don't have to sit down by a well. You may just check out at the grocery store. You may just see them when you walk into an office there at the receptionist desk. But it could be any number of people in any number of situations. It could be every person. My guess is everybody in this room has 6 or more encounters with another person every single day, and probably many of you many times that. And when I say any kind of encounter, it could be a very brief encounter like, hey, good morning, how are you? Or it could be a conversation. It could be on the phone. It could be on an email exchange. It could be face to face. It could be planned. It could be scheduled. It could be very spontaneous and impromptu. But you've got opportunity after opportunity after opportunity to make a difference. And you say, well, you know, how do we know? How do you know? You're planting seed. You're planting seed. God says you plant, somebody else waters, but God's the one who gives the growth. First thing, open your eyes, pray for God to open your eyes. Help me to see who you're bringing into my life. Let's go to the next slide. John 13, another familiar story. It's the night Jesus is going to be arrested. It's the night he's going to be betrayed by Judas. He's going to be taken away, and ultimately the next day would be taken to the cross and crucified. But Jesus wants to have his last meal with his apostles. They have a room prepared. It's an upper room. It's the Passover feast. And if you read all the gospel accounts, this doesn't happen in John 13, but in some of the other gospel accounts, it just briefly mentions that the disciples were kind of bickering among themselves about who's the greatest. Jesus, on several different occasions, we have record of him telling them, the greatest among you will be your what? Your servant. And, guys, it's not what you need to be arguing about. Who's going to be the chief of staff? When he becomes the king, who's going to be the chief of staff? Who's going to be secretary of defense? Who's going to be his vice emperor? And they were kind of bickering among themselves. It ought to be me, it ought to be me. Jesus did not say a word. He didn't say, how many times do I have to? He didn't say any of that. You know what he did? He got up quietly, got a bowl, got a towel, got down on his hands and knees, and started washing their feet. And you know why. They wore sandals. There were no paved roads. A lot of dirt, a lot of dust. You go to somebody's house for dinner and you kind of recline on the floor, maybe with your elbow on a pillow, and you eat kind of halfway laying down. But everybody's feet would be out there for the world to see, and they would be filthy, dirty, with caked on dirt from all the roads that they walked on during the day. And usually, you go to somebody's house for dinner, they will have the lowest ranking servant in the house meet you at the door to wash your feet. But nobody had washed anybody's feet. First of all, they didn't have any servants, and nobody in that group was going to admit I'm the lowest ranking because they're bickering about who's going to be the highest ranking. And so Jesus washes their feet. The most important man in the room washed the feet. The most important man on the planet washed their feet. Okay, let's go to the next slide. When it was all done, Jesus said, now that I, your Lord and teacher, have washed your feet, you also should wash one another's feet. I've set you an example that you should do as I have done to you. So Jesus says, hey, I did this so that you would do it too. Now, let's pause here for just a second. I know you talk to some people. You talk to some people, they say, well, you mean we're supposed to wash feet in church? Hold on a second. I mean, is that something we're supposed to do, like we take communion on Sunday, we're supposed to wash feet too? I know there's some people that might believe that, and I'm not here to, that's not the purpose of me bringing this up. I have a different view of that. If you think about what really happened in that room that night, here's the way I think makes sense. Let's go to the next slide. People who wash feet like Jesus. Remember, he just said, I want you to follow my example. I want you to do what I have done to you. I want you to do to others what I have done to you. So you say, well, what did he do? People who wash feet like Jesus are providing timely and practical help. Now, it was timely. They were eating dinner. The feet were dirty. And they needed to be clean. And that was timely. It was practical. Secondly, they were willing to get their hands dirty. Jesus didn't just say, hey, y'all wash each other's feet. He did it himself. And third, they aren't seeking the spotlight. Nothing glamorous about being a foot washer. So I think what he's doing, he is demonstrating for us an example. You, every day, you know about the people God brings into your life? And here, I'm talking to people. Some of you have this so much in your spiritual DNA. You do this in your sleep. You know who has needs. You know who needs to be helped. You know who's got a situation where and so you get in there and you get your hands dirty. And you do something practical, and you do something that's needed, something that's timely. And you're not there to get your back padded, and you're not there to get your name on the front page of a church bulletin or have everybody talk about it. You're there because that's who you are. You are helping people, and what you're doing is you're washing feet. You're washing feet. Randy and Lindsay I was telling you about? Let's go back. Just stay right there for a minute. Randy and Lindsay I was telling you about? That's what because I asked them, I said, when you were living in those projects in Memphis, or now that you're going to be living in the desert with people in tents, they're not going to be living in a tent, but they're going to be living in something that's not a whole lot better than a tent. And if you're going to be living out there with these people, how are you going to build? We said, we're going to look for ways we can serve them. We're going to look for ways we can help them. We're going to look for ways we're going to show them we're here to be helpful to you, not to hurt you. You can trust us. You can be confident around us that we're here to help, not to hurt. Well, that's exactly what Jesus is doing. He's saying, I am setting you an example. Look for things that other people are too good to do, too important to do, too busy to do. And it may be cleaning up a house. It may be cutting somebody's grass. It may be taking somebody to the hospital or to the doctor's office. It may be getting somebody's groceries. It could be any number of things. And we do that all the time, a lot of times for people we know, but do we ever pray, God, help me to open my eyes and see how I might do that for a neighbor that I don't even know? Or for somebody that I just met? Ask God to give you antenna, God give you an awareness. Open my eyes to help me to see how I can wash feet in the name of Jesus, following his example. Now, let's go to the next slide. Jesus closes this story in John 13, the foot washing story. He says, now that you know these things we've been talking about, now that you know these things, you will be blessed. When you do. When you do. We can read about mission trips, but you're not going to ever come back and say it's the best trip ever until you go on. And when you talk about opening your eyes and realizing God may have crossed your path with somebody you need to engage with, and you need to help them, but you're never going to really be blessed until you do it. So here are the two things. Are you going to ask God to open your eyes tomorrow? And number two, you're going to be looking for some feet you can wash. Maybe even do it anonymously. I mean, just look for ways not to call attention to yourself, but to follow the example of Jesus. The final slide. Because it could be the best day ever, the best experience ever, when you have the opportunity. Can I just share with you something real quickly? We got 1 minute left. Special prayer request. God gave us a really unusual opportunity. It's a long story that I'm not going to go into, but on Christmas Eve, met a man at Vanderbilt Hospital, and whose wife was going to have surgery the day after Christmas. She had surgery, had complications, this. And this past spring, after coming to Vanderbilt twice on life flight and having trouble with cardiovascular surgery, and 40 years old, 3 kids, lives in Kentucky, and they said, we can't do anything else for you. Vanderbilt said, we can't do anything else for you. And they put her in hospice. And the day they told her that they couldn't do anything else for her, her husband called me and asked me to come down to the hospital. We had maintained a relationship, and he didn't know much about me other than I'm the guy who came to see him after Christmas because we met him on Christmas Eve. And she wanted to talk, and we prayed together. And she knew I had faith, and I knew they had faith, or were struggling with their faith. And they were very transparent about a lot of challenges in their life. And she said, Walt said, I've loved Jesus all my life, but now they tell me I'm getting ready to die. And they were telling her straight up. And she said, I've never been baptized. Well, I said, would you like to be baptized? And she said, I would. I said, well, let me check into that. Might be able to baptize you right here in the hospital. She said, can you do that? I said, I can sure check on it. She said, do you do that kind of thing? I said, well, I don't think I've ever told you, but I try to preach every now and I know a little bit about being a preacher. And she said, really? And so I said, well, yeah, that would be good if you could check into that. So make a long story a little bit shorter. What's already long. We worked through a guy named Mitch Edgeworth, who at the time was the CEO of Vanderbilt Hospital. We worked through several other offices, and they have down one floor below, the 5th floor, they have labor delivery rooms that have birthing pools. And they had a woman volunteer to move out of a birthing room for a while, so she could go and occupy that birthing room and put her in that birthing pool, and with six nurses surrounding her. It was one of the most touching, beautiful moments I've ever experienced. She confessed her faith in Christ and was baptized into Christ right there in the hospital. And she actually lived a lot longer than they thought she would live. On Monday afternoon, Carl called me from Liberty, Kentucky, and said, Kathy died today. And can you come and do the funeral? And I said, when is it? It'll be Thursday afternoon in Liberty. And I said, well, Carl, you got to know something. If I come, I'm going to tell the whole story. And the whole story includes her sons being there the next day. And she was fading fast. She was really on a downhill slide then. She did get stronger in the weeks to come, but she was weak, but wanted she said, I want to be baptized. Well, I explained to her whole family. I said, here's what's getting ready to happen. And we talked about why you get baptized and what Jesus did to make it possible and how we can't save ourselves. We went through the whole thing. And I said, Kathy, is that exactly what you believe? She said, that's exactly what I believe. And I said, Carl, I told him this on the phone Monday. I said, I'm going to have to tell the whole story. I want everybody that knows Kathy who comes to that funeral, I want them to know exactly why she was baptized. He said, that's exactly what I want you to tell. And so I mentioned that because you never know who God's going to cross your path. But also, I I ask you tomorrow at 1 o'clock, local time, be 2 o'clock up there. I appreciate you praying because we'll have an opportunity to share the message of Christ in a very clear way with some people who, I don't know how many people will be there, but she's lived in that community all her life. She's 40 years old, died young, and a lot of times a lot of people come to funerals like that. And I really hope that Jesus can be lifted up and God can be glorified. And you know, we just never know. We never know who God is going to bring into our lives. And it can happen to any of us, and it can happen to every one of us, and it can happen even starting tonight and tomorrow. Thank you so much. Let's pray. Lord, I thank you very much for this opportunity to be with this wonderful group of people. Thank you for this congregation. Thank you for the stories that we've been reminded of tonight. Thank you that you bring people into our lives. Thank you that we have an opportunity to serve in your name. And Father, we pray that we'll do it every single day, not to get the glory, but to make a difference for the kingdom. And Father, I pray that tomorrow up in Liberty, Kentucky, that we'll be able to lift up Jesus, and that seeds will be planted in the lives of people who will be at that funeral. Father, we give you all the glory. In Jesus' name.
Thanks so much, Walt. Thanks for being here. Let's have some time of fellowship, and we'll enjoy ourselves. You're dismissed. Oh, I do want to share this. I got a text just a little bit ago that Lisa Tucker, and many of you know that she has been diagnosed with breast cancer.